Chapter 39. The Book of Greetings. Chapter 1. The one who is riding should greet the one who is walking, and the smaller group should greet the larger group. Abu Huraira reported Allah's Messenger as saying, the rider should first greet the pedestrian, and the pedestrian the one who is seated, and a small group should greet a larger group with Assalamu alaikum. Chapter 2. One of the duties of sitting in the street is to return salam. Abu Talha reported, while we were sitting in front of the houses and talking amongst ourselves, Allah's Messenger happened to come there. He stood by us and said, what about you and your meetings on the paths? Avoid these meetings on the paths. We said, we were sitting here without any intention of doing harm to the passers-by. We are sitting to discuss matters and to hold conversation amongst ourselves. Thereupon he said, if there is no help for you but to sit on these paths, then give the paths their rights, and these are lowering of the gaze, exchanging of greetings, and good conversation. Abu Sa'id Khudri reported Allah's Apostle as saying, avoid sitting on the paths. They, the companions, said, Allah's Messenger, we cannot help but holding our meetings in these paths and discuss matters there. Thereupon Allah's Messenger said, if you insist on holding meetings, then give the path its due right. They said, what are its due rights? Upon this he said, lowering the gaze, refraining from doing harm, exchanging of greetings, commanding of good, and forbidding from evil. This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Zayd bin Aslam, with the same chain of transmitters. Chapter 3. One of the rights of one Muslim over another is the greeting of salam. Abu Huraira reported Allah's Messenger as saying, 5 are the rights of a Muslim over his brother: responding to salutation, saying Yarhamuk Allah when anybody sneezes, and say Alhamdulillah, visiting the sick, following the beard. Abd al-Razzaq said that this hadith has been transmitted as Mursal hadith from Suri, and he then substantiated it on the authority of Ibn Musayyib. Abu Huraira reported Allah's Messenger as saying, 6 are the rights of a Muslim over another Muslim. It was said to him, Allah's Messenger, what are these? Thereupon he said, when you meet him, offer him greetings. When he invites you to a feast, accept it. When he seeks your counsel, give him. And when he sneezes and says, all praises is due to Allah, you say, Yarhamuk Allah. May Allah show mercy to you. And when he falls ill, visit him. And when he dies, follow his beard. Chapter 4. The prohibition of initiating the greeting with the people of the book, and how to respond to them. Anas bin Malik reported Allah's Messenger as saying, when the people of the book offer you salutations, you should say the same to you. Anas reported that the companions of Allah's apostle said to him, "The people of the book offer us salutations by saying, Assalamu alaikum. How should we reciprocate them?" Thereupon he said, "Say wa alaikum, and upon you too." Ibn Umar reported Allah's messenger as saying, "When the Jews offer you salutations, some of them say, As-samu alaikum, death be upon you. You should say in response to it, let it be upon you." This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Ibn Umar through another chain of transmitters, with a slight variation of wording. Aisha reported that a group of Jews came to Allah's messenger and sought his audience and said, Assalamu alaikum. Aisha said in response, Assalamu alaikum, death be upon you, and curse also, whereupon Allah's messenger said, Aisha, verily Allah loves kindness in every matter. She said, Did you bear what they said? Thereupon he said, Did you not hear that I said to them, Wa alaikum? This hadith has been transmitted on the authority of Sudi, that Allah's messenger said, I said alaikum, and the transmitter did not make mention of the word and. Aisha reported that some Jews came to Allah's apostle and they said, Abul Qasim, the kunya of the Holy Prophet, Assalamu alaikum, whereupon he, the Holy Prophet, said, Wa alaikum. Aisha reported in response to these words of theirs, I said, But let there be death upon you, and disgrace also. Whereupon Allah's messenger said, Aisha, do not use harsh words. She said, Did you hear what they said? Thereupon he, the Holy Prophet, said, Did I not respond to them when they said that? I said to them, Wa alaikum, let it be upon you. This hadith has been reported on the authority of Asnash with a slight variation of wording. Aisha understood their meaning and cursed them, and Allah's messenger said, Aisha, do not do that, for Allah does not like the use of harsh words. And it was at this stage that this verse of Allah, the Exalted and Glorious, was revealed. And when they came to thee, they greet thee with a greeting with which Allah greets thee not. IV 8 to the end of the verse. Jabir bin Abdullah reported that some people from amongst the Jews said to Allah's messenger, Abul Qasim, Assalamu alaikum, whereupon he said, Wa alaikum. Aisha was enraged and asked him, Allah's apostle, whether he had not heard what they had said. He said, I did hear, and I retorted to them, and the curse that I invoked upon them would receive response from Allah, but the curse that they invoked upon us would not be responded. Abu Hurairah reported Allah's messenger as saying, Do not greet the Jews and the Christians before they greet you, and when you meet any one of them on the roads, force him to go to the narrowest part of it. This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Sahih with the same chain of transmitters, but with a slight variation of wording. The hadith transmitted on the authority of Waki, the words are, when you meet the Jews, and in the Hadith transmitted on the authority of Shuba, the words are, when you meet the people of the book, and in the Hadith transmitted on the authority of Jarir, the words are, when you meet them, but none amongst the polytheists has been mentioned explicitly by name. Chapter 5. It is recommended to greet children with salam. Anas bin Malik reported that when Allah's Messenger happened to pass by young boys, he would greet them. This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Sahih with the same chain of transmitters. Sahih reported, I was walking with Thibit al-Bunani that he happened to pass by children and he greeted them. And Thibit reported that he walked with Anas and he happened to pass by children and he greeted them. And Anas reported that he walked with Allah's Apostle, may peace be upon him, and he happened to pass by children and he greeted them. Chapter 6. It is permissible to give permission to enter by raising the curtain or giving some other sign. Ibn Masud reported, the Messenger of Allah said to me, the sign that you have been permitted to come in is that the curtain is raised or that you hear me speaking quietly until I forbid you. This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Ubaydullah with the same chain of transmitters. Chapter 7. The permissibility of women going out to relieve themselves. Aisha reported that Savda, Allah he pleaded with her, went out in the fields in order to answer the call of nature, even after the time when veil had been prescribed for women. She had been a bulky lady, significant in height amongst the women, and she could not conceal herself from him who had known her. Umar bin Khattab saw her and said, Savda, by Allah, you cannot conceal from us, therefore be careful when you go out. She, Aisha, said, she turned back. Allah's Messenger was at that time in my house having his evening meal, and there was a bone in his hand. She, Savda, inclined and said, Allah's Messenger, I went out, and Umar said to me, so and so. She, Aisha, reported, there came the revelation to him, and then it was over. The bone was then in his hand, and he had not thrown it, and he said, permission has been granted to you, that you may go out for your needs. This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Hisham with the same chain of transmitters, and the words are, she, Savda, was a woman who looked to be significant amongst the people, so far as the bulk of her was concerned. The rest of the hadith is the same. Aisha reported that the wives of Allah's Messenger used to go out in the cover of night. When they went to open fields in the outskirts of Medina for easing themselves, Umar bin Khattab used to say, Allah's Messenger asked your ladies to observe veil, but Allah's Messenger did not do that. So there went out Savda, daughter of Sarna, the wife of Allah's Messenger, during one of the nights, when it was dark. She was a tall, statured lady. Umar called her, saying, Savda, we recognize you. He did this with the hope that the verses pertaining to veil would be revealed. Aisha said, Allah the Exalted and Glorious then revealed the verses pertaining to veil. This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Ibn Shihab with the same chain of transmitters. Chapter 8. The prohibition of being alone with a non-mahram woman or or entering upon her. Jabir reported Allah's Messenger as saying, "Behold, no person should spend the night with a married woman, but only in case he is married to her, or he is her mahram." Uqba bin Amir reported Allah's Messenger as saying, "Beware of getting into the houses and meeting a woman in seclusion." A person from the Ansar said, "Allah's Messenger, what about husband's brother?" Whereupon he said, "Husband's brother is like death." This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Yazid bin Abu Habib, with the same chain of transmitters. Ibn Wahb reported, "I heard Laid bin Sa'id as saying, Al-Ham means the brother of husband, or like it, from amongst the relatives of the husband, for example, cousin, etc." Abdullah bin Amr bin Alas reported that some persons from Banu Hisham entered the house of Asma, daughter of Umays, when Abu Bakr also entered, and she was at that time his wife. He, Abu Bakr, saw it and disapproved of it, and he made a mention of that to Allah's Messenger, and said, "I did not see but good only in my wife." Thereupon Allah's Messenger said, "Verily, Allah has made her immune from all this." Then Allah's Messenger stood on the pulpit and said, "After this day, no man should enter the house of another person in his absence, but only when he is accompanied by one person or two persons." Chapter 9. It is recommended for the one who is seen alone with a woman who is his wife or mahram to say, "This is so and so," to ward off suspicion. Anas reported that when Allah's Messenger was in the company of one of his wives, a person happened to pass by them. He called him, and when he came, he said to him, "Oh, so and so, she was my such and such wife." Thereupon he said, "Allah's Messenger, if I were to doubt at all, I would have entertained no doubt about you at least." Thereupon Allah's Messenger said, "Verily, Satan circulates in the body like blood." Safiya, daughter of Huyay, the wife of Allah's Apostle, reported that while Allah's Messenger, may peace be upon him, had been observing I'tikaf, I came to visit him one night and talked with him for some time. Then I stood up to go back, and he, Allah's Apostle, also stood up with me in order to bid me goodbye. She was at that time residing in the house of Usama bin Zayd. The two persons from the Ansar happened to pass by him. When they saw Allah's Apostle, they began to walk swiftly. Thereupon Allah's Messenger said to them, "Walk calmly, she is Safiya, daughter of Huyay." Both of them said, "Messenger, hallowed be Allah, we cannot conceive of Abug doubtful even in the remotest corners of our minds." Whereupon he said, "Satan circulates in the body of man like the circulation of blood, and I was afraid lest it should instill any evil in your heart or anything." This hadith has been reported on the authority of Safiya, the wife of Allah's Apostle, through another chain of transmitters, and the words are, "She went to Allah's Apostle to visit him, as he was observing I'tikaf in the mosque during Ramadan. She talked with him for some time, and then stood up to go back, and Allah's Apostle stood up in order to bid her goodbye." The rest of the hadith is the same except with the variation of the words that Allah's Apostle said, "Satan penetrates in man like the penetration of blood in every part of body." Chapter 10. If a man comes to a gathering and finds a space, let him sit there, otherwise let him sit behind them. Abu Waqid al-Layth reported that Allah's messenger was sitting in the mosque along with some people. When there came to him 3 persons, 2 of them stepped forward to the direction of Allah's messenger, and 1 of them went away. The 2 stood by the side of Allah's messenger, and 1 of them found a space in his circle, and he sat in that, and the other one sat behind him, and the 3rd one went away. When Allah's messenger had finished his work, he said, "Should I not inform you about these 3 persons? One of them sought refuge with Allah, and Allah gave him refuge, and the 2nd one felt shy, and Allah showed kindness to his shyness, and so he was accommodated in that meeting. And the last one reverted, and Allah turned away his attention from him." This hadith has been reported on the authority of Ishaq b. Abdullah b. Talha with the same chain of transmitters. Chapter 11. The prohibition of making a man get up from a place that he reached first. Ibn Umar reported Allah's messenger having said, "None of you should make another one stand in the meeting and then occupy his place." Ibn Umar reported Allah's messenger as saying, No person should ask another person to stand at his place and then he should himself sit there, but he should simply say, "Make room and accommodate." This hadith has been reported on the authority of Ibn Umar through another chain of transmitters, but with a slight variation of wording. Ibn Umar reported Allah's messenger as saying, None should make one and brother stand and then sit at his place, and it was common with Ibn Umar that when any person stood in the company with a view to making room for him, he did not sit there. This hadith had been reported on the authority of Ma'mar with the same chain of transmitters. Jabir reported Allah's apostle, may peace be upon him, as saying, "None amongst you should make his brother stand on Friday during the congregational prayer and then occupy his place, but he should only say to him, 'Accommodate me.'" Chapter 12. If a man gets up from his spot, then comes back to it, he has more right to it. Abu Huraira reported Allah's messenger as saying, "When anyone amongst you stands up," and in the hadith transmitted on the authority of Abu Avina, the words are, "He who stands in his place and goes away and then comes back to it, he has the greatest right to occupy that." Chapter 13. Forbidding a hermaphrodite from entering upon non-mahram woman. Salama reported that she had a eunuch as a slave in her house. Allah's messenger, he may peace be upon him, was once in the house that he, the eunuch, said to the brother of Salama, Abdullah Aba Umayyah, "If Allah grants you victory in Taif on the next day, I will show you the daughter of Gailan, for she has 4 folds upon her body, on the front side of her stomach, and 8 folds on the back." Allah's messenger heard this, and he said, "Such people should not visit you." Aisha reported that a eunuch used to come to the wives of Allah's apostle and they did not, and anything objectionable in his visit, considering him to be a male without any sexual desire. Allah's apostle one day came as he was sitting with some of his wives, and he was busy in describing the bodily characteristics of a lady and saying, as the comes in front, four folds appear on her front side, and as she turns her back, 8 folds appear on the back side. Thereupon Allah's apostle said, I me that he knows these things. Do not therefore allow him to cater. She, Aisha, said, then they began to observe veil from him. Chapter 14. It is permissible to seat a non-married woman behind one on a mount if she is exhausted on the road. Asma, daughter of Abu Bakr, reported that there was married to Zubair. He had neither land nor wealth, nor slave, nor anything else like it except a bomb. She further said, I grazed his horse, provided fodder to it, and looked after it, and ground dates for his camel. Besides this, I grazed the camel, made arrangements for providing it with water, and patched up the leather bucket, and kneaded the floor. But I was not proficient in baking the bread, so my female neighbors used to bake bread for me, and they were sincere women. She further said, I was carrying on my head the stones of the dates from the land of Zubair, which Allah's messenger had endowed him, and it was at a distance of 2 miles from Medina. She added, as I was one day carrying the atones of dates upon my head, I happened to meet Allah's messenger along with a group of his companions. He called me and said to the camel to sit down, so that he should make sight right behind here. I told my husband I felt shy and remembered your jealousy. Whereupon he said, by Allah, the carrying of the stone dates upon your bead is more severe a burden than riding with him. She said, I led the life of hardship until Abu Bakr sent afterwards a female servant who took upon herself the responsibility of looking after the horse, and I felt as if she had emancipated me. Asma reported, I performed the household duties of Zubair, and he had a horse. I used to look after it. Nothing was more burdensome for me than looking after the horse. I used to bring grass for it and looked after it. Then I got a servant, as Allah's apostle had some prisoners of war in his possession. He gave me a female servant. She, the female servant, then began to look after the horse, and thus relieved me of this burden. A person came and he said, Mother of Abdullah, I am a destitute person, and I intend that I should start business under the shadow of your house. I, Asma, said, if I grant you permission, Zubair may not agree to that. So you come and make a demand of it when Zubair is also present there. He came accordingly. Find said, Mother of Abdullah, I am a destitute person. I intend to start mall business in the shadow of your house. I said, is there not in Medina any place for starting the business except my house? Zubair said, why is it that you prohibit the destitute man to start business here? So we started business, and he earned so much that we sold our slave girl to him. There came Zubair to me while the money was in my lap. He said, "Give this to me." I said, "I intend to spend it as charity." Chapter 15. The prohibition of two people conversing privately to the exclusion of a third without his consent. Ibn Umar reported Allah's Messenger as saying, "When there are three persons, two should not converse secretly between themselves to the exclusion of the third one." This hadith has been reported on the authority of Ibn Umar through two different chains of transmitters. Abdullah reported Allah's Messenger as saying, "If you are free, two amongst you should not converse secretly between yourselves to the exclusion of the other third one, until some other people join him and dispel his loneliness, for it may hurt his feelings." Abdullah reported Allah's Messenger as saying, "If you are free, two should not converse secretly to the exclusion of your companion, for that hurts his feelings." This hadith has been reported on the authority of Amas with the same chain of transmitters. Chapter 16. Medicine, Sickness and Ruqya. Aisha, the wife of Allah's Apostle, said, "When Allah's Messenger fell ill, Gabriel used to recite this: 'In the name of Allah, may He cure you from all kinds of illnesses and safeguard you from the evil of a jealous one when he feels jealous, and from the evil influence of I.'" Abu Sa'id reported that Gabriel came to Allah's Messenger and said, "Muhammad, have you fallen ill?" Thereupon he said, "Yes." He, Gabriel, said, "In the name of Allah, I exorcise you from everything and safeguard you from every evil that may harm you, and from the eye of a jealous one. Allah would cure you, and I invoke the name of Allah for you." Abu Huraira reported so many abidit from Allah's Messenger, and he reported Allah's Messenger as saying, "The influence of an evil eye is a fact." Ibn Abbas reported Allah's Messenger as saying, "The influence of an evil eye is a fact. If anything would precede the destiny, it would be the influence of an evil eye. And when you're asked to take bath as a cure from the influence of an evil eye, you should take bath." Chapter 17. Witchcraft. Aisha reported that a Jew from among the Jews of Banu Suraik, who was called Labid bi al-Asam, cast a spell upon Allah's Messenger, with the result that he, under the influence of the spell, felt that he had been doing something, whereas in fact he had not been doing that. This state of affairs lasted until one day, or during one night, Allah's Messenger made supplication to dispel its effects. He again made a supplication, and he again did this, and said to Aisha, "Do you know that Allah has told me what I had asked him? There came to me two men, and one amongst them sat near my head, and the other one near my feet. And he who sat near my head said to one who sat near my feet, or one who sat near my feet said to one who sat near my head, 'What is the trouble with the man?' He said, 'The spell has affected him.' He said, 'Who has cast that?' He, the other one, said, 'It was Labid bi Asam who has done it.' He said, 'What is the thing by which he transmitted its effect?' He said, 'By the comb and by the hair stuck to the comb, and the spate of the date palm.' He said, 'Where is that?' He replied, 'In the well of the Adwan.' She said, 'Allah's Messenger sent some of the persons from among his companions there, and then said, Aisha, by Allah, its water was yellow like henna, and its trees were like the heads of the devils. She said that she asked Allah's messenger as to why he did not burn that. He said, "No, Allah has cured me, and I do not like that I should induce people to commit any high-handedness in regard to one another, but I only commanded that it should be buried." Aisha reported that Allah's messenger was affected with a spell. The rest of the hadith is the same, but with this variation of wording. Allah's messenger went to the well and looked towards it, and there were trees of date palm near it. Aisha said, "I asked Allah's messenger to bring it out, and I did not say, why did not you burn it? And there is no mention of these words. I commanded to bury them, and they buried." Chapter 18. Poison. Anas reported that a Jewess came to Allah's messenger with poisoned mutton, and he took of that what had been brought to him. Allah's messenger, when the effect of this poison were left by him, when the effect of this poison were felt by him, he called for her and asked her about that, whereupon she said, "I had determined to kill you." Thereupon he said, "Allah will never give you the power to do it." He, the narrator, said that they, the companions of the Holy Prophet, said, "Should we not kill her?" Thereupon he said, "No." He, Anas, said, "I felt the effects of this poison on the uvula of Allah's messenger." Anas bin Malik reported that the Jewess brought poisoned meat and then served it to Allah's messenger. Chapter 19. It is recommended to recite Ruqya for one who is sick. Aisha reported, "When any person amongst us fell ill, Allah's messenger, may peace be upon him, used to rub him with his right hand band and then say, 'O Lord of the people, grant him health, heal him, for thou art a great healer. There is no healer, but with thy healing power one is healed and illness is removed.'" She further added, "When Allah's messenger fell ill and his illness took a serious turn, I took hold of his hand to that I should do with it what he were to do with that. Yeah, I would rub his body with his sacred hand, but he withdrew his hand from my hand, and then said, 'O Allah, pardon me and make me join the companionship.' On she said, I was gazing at him constantly, whereas he had passed away." This hadith has been reported on the authority of Shuba through another chain of transmitters, and the words are, "He rubbed him with his hand," and in the hadith transmitted on the authority of Tawri, the words are, "He used to rub with his right hand." This hadith has been reported through another chain of transmitters. Aisha reported Allah's messenger as saying, when Allah's messenger visited the sick, he would say, "Lord of the people, remove the disease, cure him, for thou art the great curer. There is no cure but through thine healing power, which leaves nothing of the disease." Aisha reported that when Allah's messenger came to visit any sick, he supplicated for him and said, "Lord of the people, remove the malady, cure him, for thou art a great curer. There is no cure but through thine healing power, which leaves no trouble." And in the narration transmitted on the authority of Abu Bakr, there is a slight variation of wording. This hadith has been reported on the authority of Aisha through another chain of transmitters, with a slight variation of wording. Aisha reported, Allah's messenger used to recite this supplication as the words of incantation, "Lord of the people, remove the trouble, for in thine hand remove the trouble, for in thine hand is the cure. None is there to relieve him the burden of disease, but only thou. This hadith has been reported on the authority of Hisham with the same chain of transmitted. Chapter 20, reciting al-Mu'awwidhat as ruqya for the sick and blowing over them. Aisha reported that when any of the members of the household fell ill, Allah's Messenger used to blow over him by reciting Mu'awwidhat, and when he suffered from illness of which he died, I used to blow over him and rubbed his body with his hand, for his hand had greater healing power than my hand. Aisha reported that when Allah's Messenger fell ill, he recited over his body Mu'awwidhat and blew over him, and when his sickness was aggravated, I used to recite over him and rub him with his band, with the hope that it was more blessed. This hadith has been narrated through some other chains of transmitters, but with a slight variation of wording. In the hadith transmitted on the authority of Yunus and Siyara, the words are, when Allah's apostle fell ill, he blew over his body by reciting Mu'awwidhat and rubbed him with his hand. Chapter 21. It is recommended to recite ruqya for the evil eye, pustules and stings. Abd al-Rahman B. al-Aswad reported on the authority of his father. I asked Aisha about incantation. She said, Allah's Messenger had granted its sanction to the members of a family of the Ansar for incantation in curing every type of poison. Aisha reported that Allah's Messenger granted sanction to the members of a family of the Ansar for incantation for removing the effects of the poison of the scorpion. Aisha reported that when any person fell ill with a disease, or he had any ailment, or he had any injury, the Messenger of Allah placed his forefinger upon the ground and then lifted it by reciting the name of Allah and said, the dust of our ground with the saliva of any one of us would serve as a means whereby our illness would be cured with the sanction of Allah. This hadith has been transmitted on the authority of Ibn Abu Shayba and Subayr with a slight variation of wording. Aisha reported that Allah's Messenger commanded the use of incantation for curing the influence of an evil eye. This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Misar with the same chain of transmitters. Aisha reported, Allah's Messenger, may peace be upon him, commanded me that I should make use of incantation for curing the influence of an evil eye. Anas bin Malik reported in connection with incantation that he had been granted sanction to use incantation as a remedy for the sting of the scorpion and for curing small pustules and dispelling the influence of an evil eye. Anas reported that Allah's Messenger granted him sanction to use incantation as a cure for the influence of an evil eye, the sting of the scorpion, and small pustules. Salama, the wife of Allah's Apostle, reported that Allah's Messenger said to a small girl in the house of Salama that he had been seeing on her face black stains, and told her that that was due to the influence of an evil eye, and he asked that she should be cured with the help of incantation, hoping that her face should become spotless. Jabir b. Abdullah reported that Allah's apostle granted sanction to the family of Hassan for incantation in mitigating the effect of the poison of the snake, and he said to Asma, daughter of Umays, "What is this that I see the children of my brother lean? Are they not fed properly?" She said, "No, but they fall under the influence of an evil eye." He said, "Use incantation." She recited the words of incantation before him, whereupon he, by approving them, said, "Yes, use this incantation for them." Jabir b. Abdullah reported that Allah's apostle granted a special sanction for incantation in case of the snake poison to a tribe of Amr. Abu Zubayr said, "I heard Jabir b. Abdullah as saying that the scorpion stung one of us as we were sitting with Allah's messenger, may peace upon him. A person said, 'Allah's messenger, I use incantation for curing the effect of sting.' Whereupon he said, 'He who is competent amongst you to benefit his brother should do so.'" This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Ibn Jurayj with the same chain of transmitters, but with a slight variation of wording. Jabir b. Abdullah reported, I had a maternal uncle who treated the sting of the scorpion with the help of incantation. Allah's messenger forbade incantation. He came to him and said, "Allah's messenger, you forbade to practice incantation, whereas I employ it for curing the sting of the scorpion." Whereupon he said, "He who amongst you is capable of employing it as a means to do good should do that." This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Amas with the same chain of transmitters. Jabir reported Allah's messenger prohibited incantation. Then the people of Amr b. Hassam came to Allah's messenger and said, "We know an incantation which we use for curing the sting of the scorpion, but you have prohibited it." They recited the words of incantation before him, whereupon he said, "I do not see any harm in it, so he who amongst you is competent to do good to his brother should do that." Chapter 22. There is nothing wrong with ruqya that does not involve shirk. Auf b. Malik Ashjai reported, "We practiced incantation in the pre-Islamic days, and we said, 'Allah's messenger, what is your opinion about it?' He said, 'Let me know your incantation,' and said, 'There is no harm in the incantation which does not smack of polytheism." Chapter 23. The permissibility of accepting a reward for reciting ruqya with Quran and supplications. Abu Sa'id Khudri reported that some persons amongst the companions of Allah's messenger set out on a journey, and they happened to pass by a tribe from the tribes of Arabia. They demanded hospitality from the members of that tribe, but they did not extend any hospitality to them. They said to them, "Is there any incantator amongst you?" As the chief of the tribe has been stung by a scorpion, a person amongst us said, "Yes." So he came to him, and he practiced incantation with the help of Surah Al-Fatiha, and the person became all right. He was given a flock of sheep as recompense, but he refused to accept that, saying, "I shall make a mention of it to Allah's apostle, and if he approves of it, then I shall accept it." So he came to Allah's apostle and made a mention of that to him, and he, that person, said, "Allah's messenger, by Allah, I did not practice incantation, but with the help of Surah Al-Fatiha of the Holy Book." He, the Holy Prophet, smiled and said, "How did you come to know that it can be used as incantation?" And then said, "Take out of that and allocate a share for me along with your share. This hadith has been reported on the authority of Abu Bisr with the same chain of transmitters with these words, that he recited ul Quran, Surah Fatiha, and he collected his spittle, and he applied that, and the person became alright. Abu Sa'id al-Khudri reported, we landed at a place where a woman came to us and said, a scorpion has bitten the chief of the tribe. Is there any incantator amongst you? A person amongst us stood up and went with her. We had no idea that he had been a good incantator, but he practiced incantation with the help of Surah Al-Fatiha, and the chief was alright. They gave him a flock of sheep and served us milk. We said to him, are you a good incantator? Thereupon he said, I did not do it, but by the help of Surah Al-Fatiha. He said, do not drive these goats until we go to Allah's Messenger and find out whether it is permissible to accept this reward of incantation. So he came to Allah's Apostle and made a mention of that to him, whereupon he said, how did you come to know that this Surah Al-Fatiha could be used as an incantation? So distribute them amongst those who had been present there with him, and allocate a share of mine also. This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Hisham with the same chain of transmitters, and he said, there stood up with her a person amongst us whom we did not know before as an incantator. Chapter 24. It is recommended to put one's hand on the site of the pain when supplicating. Uthman bin Abu Alas al-Thaqafi reported that he made a complaint of pain to Allah's Messenger that he felt in his body at the time he had become Muslim. Thereupon Allah's Messenger said, place your hand at the place where you feel pain in your body and say Bismillah in the name of Allah 3 times and 7 times. A'udhu billahi wa kudratihi min shari ma ajidu wa uhadhiru. I seek refuge with Allah and with His power from the evil that I find and that I fear. Chapter 25. Seeking refuge with Allah from the devil who whispers during prayer. Uthman bin Abu Alas reported that he came to Allah's Messenger and said, Allah's Messenger, the Satan intervenes between me and my prayer and my reciting of the Quran, and he confounds me. Thereupon Allah's Messenger said, that is the doing of a Satan, devil, who is known as Kinsab, and when you perceive its effect, seek refuge with Allah from it, and spit 3 times to your left. I did that, and Allah dispelled that from me. Uthman bin Abu Al-As reported that he came to Allah's Apostle, and he narrated like this. In the hadith transmitted on the authority of Salam bin Nuh, there is no mention of 3 times. This hadith has been transmitted on the authority of Uthman bin Abu Al-As with a slight variation of wording. Chapter 26. For every disease there is a remedy, and it is recommended to treat disease. Jabir reported Allah's Messenger as saying, there is a remedy for every malady, and when the remedy is applied to the disease, it is cured with the permission of Allah, the Exalted and Glorious. Jabir reported that he visited Mukana and then said, I will not go away unless you get yourself cupped, for I heard Allah's Messenger say, it is a remedy. Asim bin Umar bin Qatada reported, there came to our house Abdullah and another person from amongst the members of the household who complained of a wound. Jabir said, "What ails you?" He said, "There is a wound which is very painful for me." Whereupon he said, "Boy, bring to me a copper." He said, "Abdullah, what do you intend to do with the copper?" As I said, "I would get this wound cupped." He said, "By Allah, often the touch of fly or cloth causes me pain, and cupping would thus cause me unbearable pain." And when he saw him feeling pain at the idea of cupping, he said, "I heard Allah's Messenger as saying, if there is any effective remedy amongst your remedies, that these are three: cupping, drinking of honey, and cauterization, with the help of fire." Allah's Messenger had said, "As for myself, I do not like cauterization." The cupper was called, and he cupped him, and he was all right. Jabir reported that Salama sought permission from Allah's Messenger, may Allah's peace upon him, for getting herself cupped. The Apostle of Allah asked Abu Taiba to cup her. He, Jabir, said, "I think he, Abu Taiba, was her foster brother or a young boy before entering upon the adolescent period." Jabir reported that Allah's Messenger sent a Philistine to Ubay bin Ka'b. He cut the vein and then cauterized it. Amas reported this with the same chain of transmitters, and he made no mention of the fact that he cut one of his veins. Jabir bin Abdullah reported that on the day of Asab, Ubay received the wound of an arrow in his medial arm vein. Allah's Messenger cauterized it. Jabir reported that Sa'd bin Mu'adh received a wound of the arrow in his vein. Allah's Messenger cauterized it with a rod, and it was swollen. To the Messenger of Allah did it for the second time. Ibn Abbas reported that Allah's Apostle got himself cupped and gave to the cupper his wages, and he put the medicine in the nostril. Anas bin Malik reported that Allah's Messenger got himself cupped and never withheld the wages of anyone. Ibn Umar reported Allah's Messenger as saying, "The fever from the vehement raging of the heat of hell, so cool it with the help of water." Ibn Umar reported Allah's Apostle as saying, "Fever is due to vehemence of the heat of hell, so cool it with water." Ibn Umar reported Allah's Messenger as saying, "Fever is from the vehement raging of the fire of hell, so extinguish it with water." Ibn Umar reported Allah's Messenger as saying, "Fever is from the vehement raging of the hellfire, so cool it with water." Aisha reported Allah's Messenger as saying, "Fever is from the vehement raging of the hellfire, so cool it with water." This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Hisham with the same chain of transmitters. Asma reported that a woman running high fever was brought to her. She asked water to be brought and then sprinkled it in the opening of a shirt at the uppermost part of the chest, and said that Allah's Messenger had said, "Cool the fever with water, for it is because of the vehemence of the beat of hell." Hisham reported this hadith with the same chain of transmitters. In the hadith transmitted on the authority of Ibn Numair, the words are, "She poured water on her sides and in the opening of the shirt at the uppermost part of the chest." There is no mention of these words. It is from the vehemence of the heat of the hell. This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Abu Usama with the same chain of transmitters. Rafi b. Khadij reported, I heard Allah's Messenger as saying, the fever is due to the intense heat of the hell, so cool it with water. Rafi b. Khadij reported, I heard Allah's Messenger as saying, the fever is due to the intense heat of hell, so cool it down in your bodies with water. Abu Bakr has made no mention of the word from you, Ankum, but he said that Rafi b. Khadij had informed him of it. Chapter 27. It is disliked to administer medicine in the side of the mouth forcibly. Aisha reported, we intended to pour medicine in the mouth of Allah's Messenger in his illness, but he pointed out with a gesture of his hand that it should not be poured into the mouth against his will. We said it was perhaps due to the natural aversion of the patient against medicine. When he recovered, he said, medicine should be poured into the mouth of every one of you except Ibn Abbas, for he was not present amongst you. Chapter 28. Treatment with Indian aloes wood, which is customary. Qais, daughter of Misan, the sister of Ukasha b. Misan, said, I visited Allah's Messenger along with my son, who had not by that time been weaned, and he urinated over his clothes. He ordered water to be brought and sprinkled it over them. She further said, I visited him, Allah's apostle, along with my son, and I had squeezed the swelling in the uvula, whereupon he said, why do you afflict your children by compressing like this? Use this Indian aloes wood, for it contains 7 types of remedies, one among them being a remedy for pleurisy. It is applied through the nose for a swelling of the uvula and poured into the side of the mouth for pleurisy. Qais, daughter of Misan, was one of the earlier female emigrants who had pledged allegiance to Allah's Messenger. She was the sister of Ukasha b. Misan, one of the posterity of Asad b. Kusaima. She reported that she came to Allah's Messenger along with her son, who had not attained the age of weaning, and she had compressed the swelling of his uvula. Yunus said, she compressed the uvula because she was afraid that there might be swelling of uvula. Thereupon Allah's Messenger said, why do you afflict your children by compressing in this way? You should use Indian aloes wood, for it has 7 remedies in it, one of them being the remedy for pleurisy. Ubaydullah reported that she had told that was the child who had urinated in the lap of Allah's Messenger, and Allah's Messenger called for water and sprinkled it on his urine, but he did not wash it well. Chapter 29. Healing sickness with a black seed. Abu Huraira reported that he heard Allah's Messenger as saying, Nigella seed is a remedy for every disease except death. This hadith has been narrated through other chains of transmitters, but with a slight variation of wording. Abu Huraira reported Allah's Messenger as saying, there is no disease for which Nigella seed does not provide remedy. Chapter 30. Talbina gives comfort to the sick person. Aisha, the wife of Allah's Apostle, said, when there was any bereavement in her family, the women gathered there for condolence, and they departed except the members of the family and some selected persons. She asked to prepare talbina in a small cauldron, and it was cooked, and then tarid was prepared, and it was poured over talbina. Then she said, eat it, for I heard Allah's Messenger, may peace be upon him, as saying, talbina gives comfort to the aggrieved heart, and it lessens grief. Chapter 31. Treating sickness with a drink of honey. Abu Sa'id Khudri reported that a person came to Allah's Apostle and told him that his brother's bowels were loose. Thereupon Allah's Messenger said, give him honey. So he gave him that, and then came and said, I gave him honey, but it has only made his bowels more loose. He said this 3 times, and then he came the 4th time. And he, the Holy Prophet, said, give him honey. He said, I did give him, but it has only made his bowels more loose. Whereupon Allah's Messenger said, Allah has spoken the truth, and your brother's bowels are in the wrong. So he made him drink honey, and he was recovered. This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Abu Sa'id Khudri through another chain of transmitters, but with a slight variation of wording. Chapter 32. The plague, ill omens, soothsaying, and the like. Amir b. Sa'd b. Abu Waqqas reported on the authority of his father that he asked Usama b. Zayd, what have you heard from Allah's Messenger about plague? Thereupon Usama said, Allah's Messenger said, plague is a calamity which was sent to Bani Israel, or upon those who were before you. So when you hear that it has broken out in a land, don't go to it. And when it has broken out in the land where you are, don't run out of it. In the narration transmitted on the authority of Abu Nadr, there is a slight variation of wording. Usama b. Zayd reported that Allah's Messenger had said, plague is the sign of a calamity with which Allah the Exalted and Glorious affects people from His servants. So when you hear about it, don't enter there where it has broken out. And when it has broken out in a land and you are there, then don't run away from it. Usama reported Allah's Messenger as saying, plague is a calamity which was inflicted on those who were before you, or upon Bani Israel. So when it has broken out in a land, don't run out of it. And when it has spread in a land, don't enter it. Amir b. Sa'd reported that a person asked Sa'd b. Abu Waqqas about the plague, whereupon Usama b. Zayd said, I would inform you about it. The Messenger of Allah said, it is a calamity or a disease which Allah sent to a group of Bani Israel, or to the people who were before you. So when you hear of it in the land, don't enter it, and when it has broken out in your land, don't run away from it. This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Ibn Jurayj through another chain of transmitters. Usama b. Zayd reported Allah's Messenger having said this, This calamity or illness was a punishment with which were punished some of the nations before you. Then it was left upon the earth. It goes away once and comes back again. He who heard of its presence in a land should not go towards it, and he who happened to be in a land where it had broken out should not fly from it. This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Sudi with a different chain of transmitters. Shuba reported from Habib, while we were in Medina, we heard of plague having broken out in Kufa. Ata bi Yasir and others said to me that Allah's Messenger had said, if you are in a land where this scourge has broken out, don't get out of it. And if you were to know that it had broken in another land, then don't enter it. I said to him, from whom did you hear it? They said, Amir bi Saad has narrated it. So I came to him. They said that he was not present there. So I met his brother Ibrahim bi Saad and asked him. He said, I bear testimony to the fact that Usama narrated it to Saad, saying, I heard Allah's Messenger as saying that it is a God-sent punishment from the calamity or from the remnant of the calamity with which people were afflicted before you. So when it is in a land and you are there, don't get out of it. And if this news reaches you that it has broken out in a land, then don't enter therein. Habib said, I said to Ibrahim, did you hear Usama narrating it to Saad? And he was not denying it. He said yes. This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Shuba with the same chain of transmitters, except for the fact that no mention has been made of the account of Ata bi Yasir as in the previous hadith. This hadith has been transmitted on the authority of Saad bi Malik, Husayma bi Thabit and Usama bi Zayd. Ibrahim bi Saad bi Abu Waqas reported, Usama bi Zayd and Saad had been sitting and they had been conversing, and they said this hadith. This hadith has been transmitted by Ibrahim bi Saad bi Malik on the authority of his father. Abdullah bi Abbas reported, Umar bi Khattab set out for Syria. As he came at Sarg, a town by the side of Hijaz, on the way to Syria, there met him the commander of the forces, Abu Ubaidah bi Jandb, and his companions. They informed him that a scourge had broken out in Syria. Ibn Abbas further reported that Umar said, call to me tile earliest emigrants, so I called them. He, Hadrat Umar, sought their advice, and they told him that the scourge had broken out in Syria. There was a difference of opinion whether they should proceed further or go back to their homes in such a situation. Some of them said, you Umar have set forth for a task, and therefore we would not advise you to go back, whereas some of them said, you have along with you the remnants of the sacred galaxy of men and the blessed companions of Allah's Messenger, so we would not advise you to go forth towards this calamity with such eminent persons and thus expose them deliberately to a danger. He, Hadrat Umar, said, you can now go away. He said, call to me the Ansar. So I called them to him, and he consulted them, and they trod the same path as was trodden by the Muhajirin, and they differed in their opinions as they had differed. He said, now you can go. He again said, call to me the old persons of the Quraysh who had migrated before the victory, that is, the victory of Mecca. So I called them, and Hadrat Umar consulted them, and not even two persons differed from the opinion held by the earlier delegates. They said, our opinion is that you better go back along with the people and do not make them go to this scourge. So Umar made announcement to the people in the morning, I would be on the back of my side. So they set forth in the morning, whereupon Abu Ubaidah bi Jarrah said, are you going to run away from the divine decree? Thereupon Umar said, had it been someone else to say this besides you, Umar in fact did not approve of his opposing this decision, and he said, yes, we are running from the divine decree to the divine decree. You should think if there had been camels for you and you happened to get down in a valley having two sides, one of them covered with verdure and the other being barren. Would you not be doing according to the divine decree if you graze them in verdure, and in case you graze them in the barren land, even then you would be grazing them according to the divine decree? There happened to come Abd al-Rahman bi Auf, and he had been absent in connection with some of his needs. He said, I have with me a knowledge of it that I heard Allah's messenger as saying, if you hear of its presence, the presence of plague in a land, don't enter it, but if it spreads in the land where you are, don't fly from it. Thereupon Umar bin Khattab praised Allah and then went back. This hadith has been reported on the authority of Ma'mar with the same chain of transmitters, but with this addition. Do you think that he would graze in the barren land, but would abandon the green land? Would you not attribute it to be a failing on his part? He said, yes. He said, then proceed, and he moved on until he came to Medina, and he said to me, this is the right place, or he said, that is the destination if Allah so wills. This hadith has been transmitted on the authority of Abdullah bin Harith with a slight variation of wording. Amir bin Rabi'a reported, Umar went to Syria, and as he came to Sark, information was given to him that an epidemic had broken out in Syria. Abd al-Rahman bin Auf narrated to him that Allah's messenger had said, when you hear of its presence in a land, don't move towards it. And when it breaks out in a land and you are therein, then don't run away from it. So Umar bin Khattab came back from Sark. Salim bin Abdullah reported that Umar went back along with people on hearing the hadith reported on the authority of Abd al-Rahman bin Auf. Chapter 33. There is no adwa, no tiara, evil omens, no hama, no safar, no nava, and no goal, and no sick camel should be brought to a healthy camel. Abu Huraira reported Allah's messenger as saying, there is no infection, no safar, no hama. A desert Arab said, Allah's messenger, how is it that when the camel is in the sand, it is like a deer, then a camel afflicted with scab mixes with it, and it is affected by sub. He, the Holy Prophet, said, who infected the first one? Note, the majority of scholars interpret this to mean that these things in and of themselves do not transmit or cause harm through supernatural or hidden means, but that Allah is ultimately in control, and any fearful superstition around these is false. Abu Huraira reported Allah's messenger as saying, there is no transitive disease, no evil omen, no safar, no hama. A desert Arab said, Allah's messenger. The rest of the hadith is the same. Abu Huraira reported Allah's messenger as saying, there is no transitive disease. Thereupon a desert Arab stood up. The rest of the hadith is the same, and in the hadith transmitted on the authority of Sudi, the Prophet is reported to have said, there is no transitive disease, no safar, no hama. Abu Salama H. Abd al-Rahman B. Auf reported Allah's messenger as saying, there is no transitive disease, but he is also reported to have said, a sick person should not be taken to one who is healthy. Abu Salama said that Abu Huraira used to narrate these two different ahadith from Allah's messenger, but afterwards Abu Huraira became silent on these words. There is no transitive disease. but he stuck to this, that the sick person should not be taken to one who is healthy, Harith bi Abu Dubab, and he was the first cousin of Abu Huraira, said, Abu Huraira, I used to hear from you that you narrated to us, along with this hadith and the other one. Also, there is no transitive disease, but now you observe silence about it. You used to say that Allah's Messenger said there is no transitive disease. Abu Huraira denied having any knowledge of that, but he said that the sick camel should not be taken to the healthy one. Harith, however, did not agree with him, which irritated Abu Huraira, and he said to him some words in the Abyssinian language. He said to Harith, Do you know what I said to you? He said, No, Abu Huraira said, I simply denied having said it. Abu Salama said, Sad, by my life. Abu Huraira in fact used to report Allah's Messenger having said, There is no transitive disease. I do not know whether Abu Huraira has forgotten it or he deemed it an abrogated statement in the light of the other one. Abu Huraira reported Allah's Messenger as saying, There is no transitive disease, and he also reported along with it, the ill should not be taken to the healthy. This hadith has been reported on the authority of Suri with the same chain of transmitters. Abu Huraira reported Allah's Messenger as saying, There is no transitive disease, no huma, no star promising rain, no safar. Jabir reported Allah's Messenger as saying, There is no transitive disease, no ill omen, no goal. Note, the majority of scholars interpret this to mean that these things in and of themselves do not transmit or cause harm through supernatural or hidden means, but that Allah is ultimately in control, and any fearful superstition around this is false. Jabir reported Allah's Messenger as saying, There is no transitive disease, no goal, no safar. Jabir bi Abdullah reported Allah's Apostle as saying, There is no transitive disease, no safar, no goal. He, the narrator, said, I heard Abu Zubayr say, Jabir explained for them the word safar. Abu Zubayr said, Safar means belly. It was said to Jabir, Why is it so? He said that it was held that safar implied the worms of the belly, but he gave no explanation of goal. Abu Zubayr said, Goal is that which kills the travelers. Chapter 34. Evil omens and al-fal, and that which may be regarded as inauspicious. Abu Huraira reported, I heard Allah's Messenger as saying, There is no divination, but the best type is the good omen. It was said to Allah's Messenger, What is good omen? Thereupon he said, A good word which one of you hears. This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Suri with the same chain of transmitters, but with a slight variation of wording. Anas reported Allah's Messenger as saying, There is no transitive disease, no divination, but good omen pleases me, the good word or a good word. Note, the majority of scholars interpret this to mean that these things in and of themselves do not transmit or cause harm through supernatural or hidden means, but that Allah is ultimately in control, and any fearful superstition around this is false. Anas bin Malik reported Allah's Messenger as saying, There is no transitive disease, no divination, but good omen pleases me. It was said, What is good omen? He said, Sacred words. Abu Huraira reported Allah's Messenger as saying, There is no transitive disease, no divination, but I like good words. Abu Huraira reported Allah's Messenger as saying, There is no transitive disease, no hama, no divination, but I like good omen. Abdullah bin Umar reported Allah's messenger as saying, if there be bad luck, it is in the house, and the wife and the horse. Abdullah bin Umar reported Allah's messenger as saying, there is no transitive disease, no ill omen, and bad luck is land in the house, or wife or horse. Note, the majority of scholars interpret this to mean that these things in and of themselves do not transmit or cause harm through supernatural or hidden means, but that Allah is ultimately in control, and any fearful superstition around this is false. This hadith has been reported on the authority of Sudi with other chains of transmitters, but with slight variation of wording. Umar bin Muhammad bin Zayd reported that he heard his father narrating from Ibn Umar that Allah's messenger had said, if bad luck is a fact, then it is in the horse, the woman, and the house. This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Shuba with the same chain of transmitters, but there is no mention of the word haq, fact. Abdullah bin Umar reported on the authority of his father that Allah's messenger said, if there is bad luck in anything, it is the horse, the abode, and the woman. Sa'al bin Sa'd reported Allah's messenger as saying, if bad luck were to be in anything, it is found in a woman, in the horse, and the abode. This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Sa'al bin Sa'd with a different chain of transmitters. Jabir reported Allah's messenger as saying, if bad luck were to be in anything, it is found in the land, in the servant, and in the horse. Chapter 35. The prohibition of soothsaying and going to soothsayers. Muawiyah bin al-Hakam as-Sulami reported, I said, Messenger of Allah, there were things we used to do in the pre-Islamic days. We used to visit kahins, whereupon he said, don't visit kahins. I said, we used to take omens. He said, that is a sort of personal whim of yours, so let it not prevent you from doing a thing. This hadith has been transmitted on the authority of Sudi with a slight variation of wording. This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Muawiyah bin Hakam as-Sulami through another chain of transmitters. The hadith transmitted on the authority of Yahya bin Abu Kathir. There is an addition of these words. I said, among us there are men who draw lines and thus make divination. What about this? Thereupon he, the Holy Prophet, said, there was a prophet who drew lines, so whose lines agree with his line, for him it is allowable. Aisha reported, I said, Allah's messenger, the kahins used to tell us about things unseen, and we found them to be true. Thereupon he said, that is a word pertaining to truth, which a jinn snatches and throws into the ear of his friend, and makes an addition of 100 lies to it. Urwa reported from Aisha that she said that people asked Allah's messenger about the kahins. Allah's messenger said to them, it is nothing, it is a mere superstition. They said, Allah's messenger, they at times narrate to us things which we find true. Thereupon Allah's messenger said, that is a word pertaining to truth, which a jinn snatches away, and then cackles into the ear of his friend, as the hen does, and then they mix in it more than 100 lies. This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Sudi with the same chain of transmitters. Abdullah ibn Abbas reported, a person from the Ansar who was amongst the companions of Allah's messenger reported to me, as we were sitting during the night with Allah's messenger, a meteor shot gave a dazzling light. Allah's messenger said, what did you say in the pre-Islamic days when there was such a shot of meteor? They said, Allah and His Messenger know best the actual position, but we, however, used to say that that very night a great man had been born, and a great man had died, whereupon Allah's Messenger said, these meteors are shot neither at the death of anyone nor on the birth of anyone. Allah, the Exalted and Glorious, issues command when He decides to do a thing. Then the angels supporting the throne sing His glory, then sing the dwellers of heaven who are near to them, until the glory of God reaches them who are in the heaven of this world. Then those who are near the supporters of the throne ask these supporters of the throne what your Lord has said, and they accordingly inform them what He says. Then the dwellers of heaven seek information from them, until this information reaches the heaven of the world. In this process of transmission, the jinn snatches what he manages to overhear, and he carries it to his friends. And when the angels see the jinn, they attack them with meteors. If they narrate only which they manage to snatch, that is correct, but they alloy it with lies and make additions to it. The hadith has been narrated on the authority of Sudi through the same chain of transmitters, but with a slight variation of wording. Safiya reported from some of the wives of Allah's apostle having said, he who visits a diviner, Araf, and asks him about anything, his prayers extending to 40 nights will not be accepted. Chapter 36. Avoiding lepers, etc. Amr bin Sharid reported on the authority of his father that there was in the delegation of Taqif a leper. Allah's apostle sent a message to him, we have accepted your allegiance, so you may go. Chapter 37. Killing snakes, etc. Aisha reported that Allah's Messenger commanded the killing of a snake having stripes over it, for it affects eyesight and miscarries pregnancy. This hadith has been transmitted on the authority of Hisham. He said, the short-tailed snake and the snake having stripes over it should be killed. Salim, on the authority of his father, reported Allah's apostle as saying, kill the snakes having stripes over them and short-tailed snakes, for these two types causes miscarriage of a pregnant woman, and they affect the eyesight adversely. So Ibn Umar used to kill every snake that he found. Abu Lubaba bi Abd al-Mundhir and Said bi Khattab saw him pursuing a snake, whereupon he said, they were forbidden to kill those snakes who live in houses. Ibn Umar reported, I heard Allah's Messenger commanding the killing of dogs and the killing of the striped and the short-tailed snakes, for both of them affect the eyesight adversely and cause miscarriage. Sudi said, we thought of their poison, the pernicious effects of these two. Allah, however, knows best. Abdullah bin Umar said, I did not spare any snake, I rather killed everyone that I saw. One day, as I was pursuing a snake from amongst the snakes of the house, Said bin Khattab or Abu Lubaba happened to pass by me and found me pursuing it. He said, Abdullah, wait. I said, Allah's Messenger commanded us to kill them, whereupon he said that Allah's Messenger forbade the killing of the snakes of the houses. This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Sudi with the same chain of transmitters, but with a slight variation of wording. Nafi reported that Abu Lubaba talked to Ibn Umar to open a door in his house which would bring them nearer to the mosque, and they found a fresh slough of the snake, whereupon Abdullah said, find it out and kill it. Abu Lubaba said, Don't kill them, for Allah's messenger forbade the killing of the snakes found in houses. Nafi reported that Ibn Umar used to kill all types of snakes until Abu Lubaba bi Abd al-Mundhir Badri reported that Allah's messenger had forbidden the killing of the snakes of the houses, and so he abstained from it. Nafi reported that he heard Abu Lubaba informing Ibn Umar that Allah's messenger had forbidden the killing of domestic snakes. Abdullah reported that Abu Lubaba had informed him that Allah's messenger had forbidden the killing of the snakes found in the house. Nafi reported that Abu Lubaba bi Abd al-Mundhir al-Ansari first lived in Cuba. He then shifted to Medina, and as he was in the company of Abdullah bi Umar opening a window for him, he suddenly saw a snake in the house. They, the inmates of the house, attempted to kill that. Thereupon Abu Lubaba said, they had been forbidden to make an attempt to kill house snakes, and they had been commanded to kill the snakes having small tails, small snakes, and those having streaks over them. And it was said, both of them affect the eyes and cause miscarriage to women. Nafi reported on the authority of his father that as Abdullah bi Umar saw one day standing near the ruin of his house the slough of a snake, and said to the people around him, pursue this snake and kill it. Abu Lubaba Ansari said, I heard Allah's messenger, he forbade the killing of snakes found in the houses except the short-tailed snakes and those having streaks upon them, for both of them obliterate eyesight and affect that which is in the wombs of pregnant women. Nafi reported that Abu Lubaba happened to pass by Ibn Umar, who lived in the fortified place near the house of Umar bin Khattab, and was busy in keeping his eyes upon a snake and killing it. The rest of the hadith is the same. Abdullah reported, we were with Allah's messenger in a cave when there was revealed to him the Surah Al-Mursalat, Surah IXXVII, by those sent forth to spread goodness, and we had just heard it from his lips that there appeared before us a snake. He said, kill it. We hastened to kill it, but it slipped away from us. Thereupon Allah's messenger said, Allah saved it from your harm just as he saved you from its evil. This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Al-Amas with the same chain of transmitters. Abdullah reported that Allah's messenger commanded a murim, one who is in the state of pilgrimage, to kill the snake at Mina. Abdullah reported, while we were with the messenger of Allah in the cave. The rest of the hadith is the same as the one narrated above. Abu As-Sa'ib, the freed slave of Hisham bin Surah, said that he visited Abu Sa'id Khudri in his house, and he further said, I found him saying his prayer, so I sat down waiting for him to finish his prayer, when I heard a stir in the bundles of wood lying in a corner of the house. I looked towards it and found a snake. I jumped up in order to kill it, but he, Abu Sa'id Khudri, made a gesture that I should sit down. So I sat down, and as he finished the prayer, he pointed to a room in the house and said, do you see this room? I said, yes. He said, there was a young man amongst us who had been newly wedded. We went with Allah's messenger to participate in the battle of Trench, when a young man in the midday used to seek permission from Allah's messenger to return to his family. One day he sought permission from him, and Allah's messenger, after granting him the permission, said to him, carry your weapons with you, for I fear the tribe of Qurayza may harm you. The man carried the weapons and then came back. and found his wife standing between the two doors. He bent towards her, smitten by jealousy, and made a dash towards her with a spear in order to stab her. She said, "Keep your spear away and enter the house until you see that which has made me come out." He entered and found a big snake coiled on the bedding. He darted with the spear and pierced it, and then went out, having fixed it in the house. But the snake quivered and attacked him, and no one knew which of them died first, the snake or the young man. We came to Allah's apostle and made a mention to him and said, "Supplicate to Allah that man may be brought back to life." Thereupon he said, "Ask forgiveness for your companion," and then said, "There are in Medina jinns who have accepted Islam, so when you see any one of them, pronounce a warning to it for 3 days, and if they appear before you after that, then kill it, for that is a devil." Asma b. Ubaid reported about a person who was called As-Sa'ib, having said, "We visited Abu Sa'id Khudri. When we had been sitting with him, we heard a stir under his bed. When we looked, we found a big snake." The rest of the hadith is the same, and in this Allah's Messenger is reported to have said, "Verily, in these houses there live aged snakes. So when you see one of them, make life hard for it for 3 days. And if it goes away, well and good, otherwise kill it, for in that case it will be a non-believer." And he, the Holy Prophet, said to his companions, "Go and bury your companion who had died by the snake bite." Abu Sa'id Khudri reported Allah's Messenger having said, "There is a group of jinns in Medina who accepted Islam, so he who would see anything from these occupants should warn him 3 times, and if he appears after that, he should kill him, for he is a Satan." Chapter 38. It is recommended to kill geckos. Sharik reported that Allah's Messenger commanded her to kill geckos. This hadith has been transmitted on the authority of Ibn Abi Shayba, with slight variation of wording. Sharik reported that she consulted Allah's Apostle in regard to killing of geckos, and he commanded to kill them, and Sharik is one of the women of Bani Amir bi Luwai. This hadith has been reported through another chain of transmitters with the same meaning. Amir bi Sa'd reported on the authority of his father that Allah's Apostle commanded the killing of geckos, and he called them little noxious creatures. Aisha reported that Allah's Messenger said about the gecko as a noxious creature. Harmala made this addition, that she said, "I did not hear that he had commanded to kill them." Abu Huraira reported Allah's Messenger as saying, "He who killed a gecko with the first stroke for him is such and such a reward, and he who killed it with the second stroke for him is such and such a reward less than the first one, and he who killed it with the third stroke for him is such and such a reward less than the second one." This hadith has been reported on the authority of Abu Huraira through another chain of transmitters, and the words are, "He who killed a gecko with the first stroke for him are ordained 100 virtues, and with the second one less than that, and with the third one less than that." Abu Huraira reported Allah's Messenger as saying that he who kills a gecko with the first stroke, there are 70 rewards for him. Chapter 39. The prohibition of killing ants. Abu Huraira reported Allah's Messenger as saying, "An ant had bitten a prophet, one amongst the earlier prophets, and he ordered that the colony of the ants should be burnt. And Allah revealed to him, 'Because of an ant's bite, you have burnt a community from amongst the communities which sings my glory.'" Abu Huraira reported Allah's Messenger as saying, "An apostle from amongst the apostles of Allah encamped under a tree, and an ant bit him, and he commanded his belongings to be removed from underneath the tree. He then commanded, and it was burnt. And Allah revealed to Bin, why one ant which had bitten you was not killed." Abu Huraira reported so many ahadith, and one of them was this, that Allah's Messenger said, "When an apostle from amongst the apostles of Allah came to sit under a tree, an ant bit him. He commanded his luggage to be removed from under the tree, and he commanded it to be burnt in the fire. And Allah revealed to him, why one ant which had bitten you was not killed, and why did you burn the others?" Chapter 40. The prohibition of killing cats. Nafi reported from Abdullah that Allah's Messenger said, "A woman was punished because she had kept a cat tied until it died, and as a punishment of this offense she was thrown into the hell. She had not provided it with food or drink, and had not freed her, so that she could eat the insects of the earth." This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Abu Huraira through another chain of transmitters. This hadith has been transmitted on the authority of Ibn Umar also. Abu Huraira reported Allah's Messenger as saying, "A woman was punished because of a cat. She had neither provided her with food nor drink, nor set her free so that she might eat the insects of the earth." This hadith has been narrated on the authority of Hisham with the same chain of transmitters, but with a slight variation of wording. Abu Huraira reported this hadith through another chain of transmitters. Hammam bin Manabi reported this hadith on the authority of Abu Huraira. Chapter 41. The virtue of giving food and water to animals which are unlawful to eat. Abu Huraira reported Allah's Messenger as saying, "A person suffered from intense thirst while on a journey. When he found a well, he climbed down into it and drank water, and then came out and saw a dog lolling its tongue on account of thirst, and eating the moistened earth. The person said, 'This dog has suffered from thirst as I had suffered from it.' He climbed down into the well, filled his shoe with water, then caught it in his mouth until he climbed up, and he made the dog drink it. So Allah appreciated this act of his and pardoned him." Then the companions around him said, "Allah's Messenger, is there for us a reward even for serving such animals?" He said, "Yes, there is a reward for service to every living animal." Abu Huraira reported Allah's Messenger, may peace be upon him, as saying, "A prostitute saw a dog moving around a well on a hot day and hanging out its tongue because of thirst. She drew water for it in her shoe, and she was pardoned for this act of hers." Abu Huraira reported Allah's Messenger as saying, "There was a dog moving around a well, whom thirst would have killed. Suddenly a prostitute from the prostitutes of Bani Israel happened to see it, and she drew water in her shoe and made it drink, and she was pardoned because of this."